Hey guys, welcome back, it's Ripe again. In today's video, an out-of-control neighbor despised my semi-truck and called it a monstrosity. He trespassed and vandalized my property and then cut the brake lines on my truck to get me killed. Here is what happened, let's dive right into the video. I wanted to post this story on Reddit because I really wanted to rant about this crazy neighbor drama I became a part of. You see, I own a semi-truck which I park on my farm property because I use it for my business. The emphasis on business because why else would I even own a semi-truck? Well, anyway, my dear neighbor does not seem to understand this. He is a 30-something-year-old man living alone on his property that is right next to mine, and he has been a pain in my butt ever since he moved here some 3 years back. During the difficult times of COVID, when we were all confined to our homes, my neighbor decided that he was gonna be a special snowflake. While the rest of us were following the rules and staying indoors, he would wander around shouting about how we shouldn't be afraid of the government and should instead cherish the blessing that God had bestowed upon us, the said blessing being the virus. Yep, you heard that right, he believed that the virus was a test of our faith. Separating the truth believers from the rest, as he would say, or rather shout on the top of his lungs. It was pretty clear from these bizarre rants that he was not quite right in the head. At that point though, I was bedridden due to post-virus syndrome, so I didn't pay much attention to his strange behavior. I was more focused on recovering my own health. But once I regained my strength and could finally get back to work, it was then that my neighbor decided that I would be his next target. About a week after I had resumed my work, I stepped outside one morning to find my neighbor going absolutely crazy. He was yelling something about my semi-truck being a symbol of corporate greed and how my diesel engine was polluting the world. It was like my semi-truck had personally gone to his house and tried to strangle him in his sleep. Still, I approached him calmly, trying to reason with him because I didn't want to go all aggressive when I barely knew him. I explained that my semi-truck was essential for my livelihood and I followed all environmental regulations to minimize its impact. But it seemed like he was possessed or something. He started yelling absurd things like, "Your truck is the devil's chariot, spreading darkness and chaos," and "You're a pawn in the corporate conspiracy to destroy the planet." I was and still am sure that he had some kind of mental issues, and that was when things started escalating. My neighbor started talking to my other neighbors about my evil vehicle and how he was afraid that I would contaminate the air so much that the nature in our neighborhood would die. And while most of them ignored his words, there were some who agreed and visited my house to ask me to remove my semi-truck. I had to waste an hour arguing with them that no, I cannot just give it up, and no, my single vehicle was not gonna eradicate the nature. Things took an especially bizarre turn when, one night, my neighbor trespassed onto my property. I woke up to the sound of commotion and rushed outside only to discover him spray painting graffiti all over my beloved semi-truck. He had somehow managed to break into my property, and there he was, defacing my truck with phrases like "demon spawn" and "bringer of death." I had to involve the police, and after a thorough investigation, they arrested and jailed him for destruction of property and trespassing, but more importantly, all of this finally stopped him from shouting about my semi-truck even after he was released. However, my peace was short-lived. Approximately a month later, I opened my front door to find a pamphlet on my doorstep. This pamphlet labeled my semi-truck as a monstrosity responsible for the destruction of God's beautiful environment, and it threatened me with dire consequences for my actions. It was clear that my neighbor was escalating his aggressive actions once again, so to prevent anything happening like before, I decided to take precautions. I invested in a set of security cameras to monitor my property. While he had once been to jail for his actions, I knew it was not enough of a punishment to stop someone who seemed to be almost a maniac with how obsessive he was to my semi-truck and the environment. The cameras were a small but necessary step to safeguard my peace of mind and ensure the safety of my property. Though one fateful day, as I climbed into my semi-truck, something felt off about the brakes. It was a gut feeling that made me hesitate, and seeing how things have been recently, I did not ignore this feeling. I stepped out of the truck and decided to inspect the brakes more closely. To my shock and horror, I discovered that the brake lines had been deliberately cut. It made me paralyzed for a second as I thought about what kind of accident could have occurred if I hadn't followed my gut feeling and checked. I had a strong suspicion of who might be behind this harmful and absolutely horrendous act, but I needed concrete evidence for this. So I rushed back inside my house and immediately accessed the footage from all the security cameras I had installed. Most of the cameras showed nothing out of the ordinary, and I kind of knew why. My neighbor had been oddly quiet ever since those pamphlets, and I suspected it was because he had realized that there were cameras installed all over my property now that would no doubt catch him. So maybe he had found out the blind spots of my cameras and sneaked inside to mess with my semi-truck. But what he didn't know was that I had a few hidden cameras strategically placed. As I carefully reviewed the footage, there it was, clear as day, my neighbor sneaking around my property, unaware that one of my hidden cameras had caught him in the act. I decided to confront my neighbor immediately. I marched over to his property and demanded an explanation for how he dared to trespass on my property again and mess with my semi-truck. At first, he tried to deny any involvement, calling me a psycho for having a grudge against him. But as we argued back and forth, he finally admitted to it. He had the audacity to claim that I deserved what happened because it was God's way of teaching me a lesson. Yep, this nutjob believed that God's divine plan involved cutting my brake lines with the hands of my neighbor. What a load of BS. I couldn't help but laugh out at the absurdity of his reasoning. I then said that maybe my decision to call the police will also be an act of God, and this statement seemed to offend him greatly because he cursed at me, calling me a sinful man. And then he took it upon himself to dial the police number, accusing me of destroying the neighborhood and committing a crime. The police, who were already familiar with his troublesome behavior, arrived after about an hour. They did not seem particularly serious about the situation, and I couldn't help but feel that some of them were even amused to find a bit of drama in their otherwise routine day. As my neighbor approached the police, he continued his rant, accusing me of illegal environmental destruction and urging them to put me behind bars before I could cause any more harm. The head police officer, though, remained calm and composed as he explained that nothing about me owning a semi-truck was illegal or harmful to the environment. It seemed like he was dealing with a stubborn brat, and with how my neighbor was stomping his foot, that was not too far from the truth. My neighbor clearly did not appreciate the officer's response because in the blink of an eye, he charged towards me, pulling out a frickin' screwdriver he had somehow concealed on his body. I managed to dodge the first attack, and before he could make another move, the police swiftly intervened. So he then turned towards them instead, attempting to stab them with the screwdriver as well. Though bad for him, the police officer didn't hesitate to use a taser to subdue him. After a brief struggle, they managed to handcuff him and place him in their patrol car. When asked if I wanted to press charges, I immediately agreed. I again sent my troublesome neighbor behind bars, and this time I also managed to secure a restraining order against him to cover all my bases. Let's see what he does after coming back out, though he won't be getting out anytime soon. And yeah, Ripe Stars, it seems like these entitled Karen neighbors really despise semi-trucks for one reason or another. Either way, if you enjoy these stories, I would very much appreciate it if you could subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, like the video, and maybe even leave a comment if you want to support me. Thank you so much, your help is very much appreciated. And now let's move on to the next story. It starts like this. So I was dating a girl for a while that I really thought was gonna be the one I get married to someday. We were living together and even had a joint bank account where we were putting in savings towards moving from our apartment into a house. What I did not know as for the last 6 months of our relationship was that she was cheating on me with another guy. I was heartbroken and furious when I found out, but she did not even seem to care. She did not apologize and instead told me that if I was doing everything for her, she would not have needed anybody else. As you can imagine, we broke up and I was left trying to emotionally deal with all of this. By the time I remembered about the joint, it was too late and she had emptied the entire thing. And by joint, OP means the joint bank account between them. And not just the part of the money that was hers, but also mine, which was my entire life savings that I had. I was essentially broke and only had enough in my personal bank account to get me by paycheck to paycheck. I was in a horrible situation, and after feeling bad for myself, I tried to get my money back from her. I called her and told her that she should not steal from me and to give me back the portion of the savings that was mine. She then laughed in my face before hanging up the phone. I called again and left a message telling her that I needed the money back. Well, she ended up calling the police on me with some phony story that I had went over to her new house and started threatening to beat her and her new boyfriend up if they did not pay me off. I was arrested because they believed her and I was stuck in jail until the entire matter got cleared up. So this woman that I had spent so much time loving and thinking I was gonna marry not only stole everything from me, but called the police to have me wrongly arrested. I figured that if she was not gonna play nice, then I could get just as dirty as she could. I knew that the money was probably long gone because I started seeing her post on social media fancy new handbags and designer clothing that I know she could never normally afford. While she did work, she had a tendency to get fired, be unemployed on benefits until they ran out, and then get a new job. I decided that I was gonna destroy her after what she had done to me. I could live with the cheating and lies once I had time to properly heal. Stealing my money and making me spend a night in jail, though, was over the line. Another thing that my ex tended to was buy things on credit. I don't really believe in buying things you cannot fully afford unless it's like a car or a house or something that a loan is basically required if you're not rich. And by the way, Ripe Stars, I don't know about you, but I would disagree there. I think I would rather buy a cheap car that I can pay in cash instead of paying monthly for it. But sure, if you want a super expensive car, buying it in cash is probably not so smart. But anyway, before I met her though, she had a tendency to run up credit cards and not be able to pay them back. When that happens, the banks tend to go to a collection agency who are in charge of getting the money from you. They call and send letters and become the most annoying thing in the world. I learned all of this one day after we broke up when I picked up the phone to what I thought was a spam call, but listened closer. Collection, we are trying to reach X to talk to her about the money that she owes. Me, this is her friend. Can I inquire to the debt amount and payment information, please? I knew that if I asked this, I would get them talking instead, and it worked. They told me how she owed $20,000 from unpaid credit card debt. Of course, I was gonna be an amazing friend and help her out when it came to getting that paid. Me, the thing is she used to live here, but now she moved out and has a different number. I can give you that and her new forwarding address though, so she will be able to pay you off. She just got a new job that pays great and told me the first thing she wanted to do was pay off her debt. They believed me and I gave them her new address and her cell number. I know that she started getting a bunch of phone calls from them because I got a message on social media from her one day asking if I told her debtors where she lived. I did not answer and let her get upset from the backlash that was now happening. She did not have the money, and now that they had an address, they were sending letters talking about suing her since she had not been making any payments. The only reason I know this is she was posting pictures of the letters on social media, asking people for donations or advice on how to get out of it. I read a long-winded post she made talking about how the courts were so mean and sided with the collection company that she had to pay the money back. Having something like this on her record plus not paying for so long probably plummeted her credit. I would not be surprised if she was never able to borrow again, whether it be another credit card or a loan for a car. Then she started posting about selling the expensive items that she spent my life savings on and trying to get any kind of money to pay before she got arrested. She was saying that if she didn't sell it and get the money, they were gonna come to her new place and start taking things to use towards the debt. She had the gall to call me and ask me to borrow money because she was in trouble. Apparently the guy she had been seeing behind my back left her once he realized that she was in so much financial trouble. I asked her if she remembered when I asked her to give me back my life savings and what her reaction was. She did not answer, so I just laughed in her face like she had to me and hung up on her. She pretty much lost everything, and the last I heard she was asking friends if she could stay with them for a while because she no longer had a place to live. She tried to destroy my life and in turn I went and destroyed hers. For those wondering why I did not just try and sue her or whatever for the money, I found out I did not have any leverage to do so. She took money from an account that had her name on it, which she had every right to do. I was not able to get a single penny of my money back, but I got my revenge and learned an important lesson. If I was ever going to get a joint bank account again with somebody, I was not gonna throw my entire life savings in it. That would go into an account that only my name was on until I was married and the laws surrounding it were a little more stable to work with. Some might think what I did was a little bit harsh, but in my defense, I did not make her rack up that kind of debt to begin with. All I did was point the people she owed money to in the right direction and watch the fireworks unfold from behind my computer screen. If she did not make a false claim to try and have me arrested, I might not have ever done that and instead told the person on the phone that she did not live here anymore or ignore them completely. I hope she had fun with my money while it lasted before I went and destroyed her because of it. And yeah, Ripe Stars, I don't think that what OP did was too harsh at all. In my opinion, I think he should have gone way harder. If someone would steal my entire life savings, I would go absolutely nuclear on that person, no matter who it is. Let us know in the comments what you would have done, and now let's continue with the next story. And by the way, while you're at it, I would also appreciate it if you could like the video, because that would help me tremendously. So the next one is titled Revenge on Prankster. My cousin is a prankster. She likes telling jokes, and one of her favorites is during the holidays. She likes to tell me that my uncle, her dad, is coming to pick me up. If I'm being honest, my uncle is not a nice man. He yells at me and everyone for everything. He lies about people to make them look bad and him look good. He makes fun of me for being overweight. He is very verbally abusive. It's gotten to the point where I pretty much grey rocked him, which is basically no contact. And her favorite prank is telling me that he is coming to pick me up to take me to family gatherings, which I usually avoid going to if he is there. And 2 hours in the car with him? That's literally hell. So a couple of weeks ago she lied and told me he called and was gonna come pick me up for my birthday. I felt like I was having a panic attack. I remember crying, hyperventilating, I was pacing back and forth trying to figure out some way out of it. And yes, visiting him is just that bad. She started laughing. I told her that's not funny. She knows how I feel about that man. She said, "Don't you feel better now that you know he's not actually coming?" I have not forgotten that. It's been 2 weeks and I've had enough of that prank. I wanted to prank her to kind of get her back. I remember her biggest fear. Her biggest fear was clowns. She's been scared to death of clowns since she was a kid. So I had a friend that's over 6 feet tall dress up in a scary looking clown suit. I told her I got a free dinner for 2 coupon for my birthday to her favorite restaurant and wanted to share it with her to bait her. Well, we left and I had my clown in place. The plan was to stop on the middle of this old rural road and stop the car at a specific spot. That's exactly where my friend was hiding. Everything went to plan. My friend parked his old junk car in the ditch on the side of the road. I stopped and said we need to check it out and see if they need help. While she is looking in it and looking around for the owner, I sneak back to my car. My clown runs out of an old barn and straight for us. She saw him, froze and started screaming. She ran to my car, but I sped off before she could get in. I did not abandon her, I just drove over a hill to where she could not see me from where the old car was and watched in my rearview mirror. She tried running with the clown chasing her, screaming for help. He caught up to her and she got on her knees and started crying. He laughed and revealed it was a joke. I drove back and started laughing with him. She told me that was not funny and I repeated what she told me, the "don't you feel better" line. She then screamed and yelled the whole car ride at me that I could have scared her to death. I told her that's how I feel when she tells me about my uncle. And the next one is titled That's How You Lose a Customer. So I was on a business trip to a client in Philly, located just far enough away from the city to be a very expensive cab ride. However, not so far as to warrant a rental car. I flew down, got an airport cab there, was there for a week being picked up and delivered from my hotel by taxi, and on Friday the client called a cab for me to return to the airport. The driver of my cab was distracted and not driving with safe attention to the road, so after a couple miles he hit another car. Fortunately, it was a low-speed collision, just barely not fast enough to deploy airbags, and everyone walked away unharmed. However, I had to wait for the cops to show up to give a statement, and I insisted the cab company send another car with another driver to take me to the airport. A couple minutes into waiting, I realized the driver had left the meter running, which I insisted he stop. All told, I was there maybe an hour between waiting for the cop, talking to the cop, convincing the cop not to force me to go to the hospital. I had a black eye before the accident and the cop was really worried that I was terribly injured and too delusional to realize I had been hurt. And waiting for a new cab to show up. So while I had left early for my flight, by the time I got to the airport, I was gonna have to rush to make it. You would think if you had a cab company and your driver had a car accident with a passenger in the car, you would see to it that they go to their destination safely and hope they don't sue you, but not only did the second cabbie run the meter and ask me to pay, but he told me the owner of the cab company had insisted he get the fare from the first cab's meter and insist I pay it too. He had the decency to look ashamed about all this, so I was not too nasty to him personally. I told him calmly that I recognized that the law allowed that I could be charged for the trip, although good business practice would dictate otherwise. But that if I had not been charged, I would have given him a good tip, while now he would get no tip as I was offended. And then I told him what to tell his boss I was gonna do. You see, my client, there was a major bank. It was not Bank of America, but a few years later it got bought by the Bank of America, so you can think of it as being that size. And well, they had people in to consult with them and work with them often, and they always used this cab company for all the local travel. I would be going back there in 2 weeks, so I simply phoned up my client on Monday morning to let them know about the accident and asked them very nicely to please find another cab company for me to use when I would be there. My contact at the client was of course horrified and made sure that they, their employees and their consultants and contractors would never be using that cab company again. And the next one is titled, Karen Wants Freebies. So this happened to me about 2 years ago, but a former coworker just reminded me about it and I'm pretty sure it counts as malicious compliance. I will try and keep it short, but it's a little long. So I used to be a service manager at one of the biggest locations of a popular Mexican grill. I won't say which one, but guacamole was $195 extra, and we were required to ask everyone if they were okay paying that price. One Sunday morning, our second busiest shift of the week, 2 of my line people called out, so we were struggling to get all of our prep done before opening at 11. We are just wrapping up when in comes Karen 10 minutes before opening through the side door marked employees only with 15 preteen girls in tow. My cook recognizes her as she regularly comes in during the dinner shift and is extremely abusive and cruel to all the Latino workers. Karen tells me they can order whatever they want, throws her credit card at me, and goes to sit down at the table and diddle on her phone. Now I cannot ring up her order without her standing there because of the company rules, and I am 30 weeks pregnant and just wanna take my break. I waddled over to Karen's table to try and inform her of that when she literally flicks her hand at me to dismiss me. Not only have I been at the store since 7 and done 2 different people's jobs on top of my own, I have my son's head grinding against my pelvic bones and kicking me like crazy. I'm in no mood. When I try to tell her again, she looks at me with what I can only describe as seething contempt and says, "What part of they can get whatever they want did you not understand? I don't care what you charge me as long as I get a receipt. Don't interrupt me again or I'll get your fat ass fired." Now I never cry, but that almost got me. Motherhood is awesome, but pregnancy sucks. I finally managed to pick my jaw off the ground and stammer, "Alright ma'am, I will ring up whatever they want and bring you a receipt." The girls were really nice and most of them ordered double meat and they all got a bottled water and chips and guac. Every single one. That's exactly what Karen wanted. My cashier and I are just vibrating with glee as we ring them up and watch the bill climb to like $250. I brought the bill to Karen and was pretty excited when she didn't immediately check it. I made my own food and told the cook to come get me when the show starts. I am halfway done eating when I see him waving to the camera, howling with laughter, so I head up. Karen is foaming at the mouth, screaming for the manager, and when she sees that manager is me, she literally grinds her teeth and slaps her receipt on the table. She manages to choke out the word, "refund." The girls have all pretty much finished their food, so I inform her that I won't be doing that because I would lose my job for giving away that much critical inventory, meat, guac, cheese for free. Then I gently remind her that she told me twice that they could get anything as long as she got a receipt. She just keeps demanding a refund and calling me stupid and fat, again pregnant. At this point her screaming is holding up the very long line and customers are shouting at her to just leave. That is when she pushed me effing hard. My cashier caught me so I didn't fall down, but 2 of our regulars who are police see it and immediately cuff her. In this state, any use of physical force against a pregnant woman is classified as aggravated battery or something like that. I felt bad for the kids and I was fine, so I kept telling them I didn't want to press charges, but they said that at that point it did not matter because the woman had done it in front of non-duty officers, so she was getting arrested. They had to call the kids' parents to come get them because she was their church's youth leader and get statements. My GM came in and let me go home with a full day's pay. She tried to take the case to trial, but they had video and like 20 witness statements, so she ended up taking a couple years probation or something like that. All because I did exactly what she told me to do. And yeah, ripe stars, I guess that is how malicious compliance can end. Just do what stupid entitled people tell you to do, and in the end, if you're lucky, they might end up getting arrested. By the way, if you enjoyed these stories, then please don't forget to subscribe to my channel and also click the bell to not miss any of my videos in case YouTube is acting up again. The next one is titled, Always Drive the Posted Speed Limit. I have recently moved to a new neighborhood, slightly rural with some fun back roads. The roads around me are notorious for speeders. I will admit, before I moved here in my younger days, I loved racing around the turns. Now that I am older and wiser or something, I try to drive around the speed limit. But there is this one super awkward road on the way to my house. It has a decent enough slope that when going down it, you pick up speed. Posted speed limit is around 25, which means you have to ride your brakes just to maintain such a low speed. My super cool minivan is heavy and gains momentum quickly, but I can still maintain a 25 to 30 without keeping my foot on the brake the whole way. On this street is a lovely woman. I'm sure she is sick of people speeding down her street, but she is just not cool about it. She comes to a full stop when pulling into her driveway, just to slow people down even if they are doing the speed limit. Honks and yells at anyone going over 25. If she is in her driveway, she lifts her arms in the WTF gesture and yells at the passing cars. It is quite amusing. So the other day I was cruising down this street and there was a mail truck in front of me, so we were doing around 25 to 30. My lovely neighbor was in front of the mail truck. She pulls ever so slowly into her driveway, and as we pass, she toots her little horn and yells at us to slow down. At this point, I just brush it off. She does this, it's whatever. But today, my lucky day, as I am heading down the street again on my daily commute, my lovely neighbor pulls out behind me. I was doing around the speed limit, probably closer to 30. However, my lovely neighbor asked me to slow down again. I must slow down, probably should anyway. I go exactly 25 miles per hour, and when we reach the corner to my street, I drive the posted 15 miles per hour going around the curve. The posted speed on my street? 30. You bet I'm driving 30. At this point, lovely neighbor is annoyed. I can see in my rear view that she is throwing her hands up, clearly not happy. Nobody drives 30 on my street, not even the people that live here. It is a decent cut through to some main roads, probably why lovely neighbor was using it. And you bet your ass I pulled into my driveway nice and slow. Did not stop because I'm not a complete a-hole. Lovely neighbor speeds off in frustration, hitting at least 45 before she was out of sight. And with this, we have reached the end of the video. However, if you cannot get enough of my content, please check out my endless playlist, where you can find thousands of hours of content. In addition, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel to not miss any of my daily uploads. Thank you so much in advance, and I hope to see you again tomorrow.